Yeah.
Up, everyone.
Sup, Rebecca.
Sup, everyone. And I don't know if you're seeing something new, seeing someone new on the screen. I'm out of order. I'm so sorry. But I'm just so excited to introduce Lynn, who is one of our mentors who is living with FTD, and she is going to join us on SUP from time to time and help us share the shine of our certified community. So welcome to SUP, Lynn. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yay! Oh, so Matthew got some hairs cut, and I think Tipa was talking about it on her show as well. Looking good.
Thank you. Yes, and I've noticed that everybody else has gotten some hairs cut and styled and everything. So everybody's on point for tonight. Wonderful.
This season, yes. Carrie, you have been working hard on keeping us moving forward with what's going on in the world of PAC. So I know you've got some things to tell us about tonight. What's coming up?
Sure. My YouTube is going to start any minute here. It's a little hot again, so let me share my slides with y'all. Share sound. Maybe that'll help when it's circling around. I know we're live out there, but my YouTube is slow. All right. So once again, everybody, thank you so much for sharing, following, and liking our content. Can you see my screen? Yeah. No, you cannot. Some can, some can't.
Everybody else has gotten some hairs cut and styled and everything. So everybody was again.
1 second, guys. We're live out there.
No worries. It's that wonderful lag.
Oh.
That lag
All right.
happens.
So once again, everybody, thank you so much for sharing, following, and liking our content. Can you see my screen?
World of PAC. So I know you've got some things to tell us about tonight. What's coming up? Ooh, who wants to do a timeout?
We'll start timeout. We need it.
Who wants to do this? Everybody do this.
Share my slides with y'all.
All right. Carrie, do you want to mute for a second? I'm wondering, what does this mean? We use this a lot in the world of PAC. Lynn, you've been going to a lot of our courses and our certification courses, and I bet you've gotten used to this signal. What does this mean in the PACiverse?
We're taking a break. We may be starting again. We may need to reboot.
We are going like this. Whoa. Okay. We need a timeout.
Okay.
Because what happens sometimes is that amygdala goes here and our prefrontal cortex goes out the door and we're not thinking so clearly. But it looks like Carrie kept that prefrontal cortex in check and has us ready to go again.
Yes. Okay. So
thanks everyone for the timeout. Let's do it.
Thank you so much, coach and consultant. Great skills. Okay. Now, can you guys see my screen? Yay! Okay, here we go. So thank you so much, guys, for your patience, and thank you for watching us on YouTube and Facebook. Like, follow, share, subscribe, do all those great things. All this content is free. We love it when we hear about people who are using those Facebook and YouTube videos every day. All right, so coming up tomorrow, we have Ask Tipa Anything live on Facebook between 7 and 8:30. If you've got questions for us, email us at ata@tipasnow.com. Next week, hey, there's a change next week, guys. We actually do we get a week off? Is that what it is? No, we're just not going to be on YouTube next week. We'll be back again on the third week. We'll have a great guest lined up for you. Then in August, we've got our upcoming enhanced trainer course. That's August 13th and 27th. You do need to be already certified as a trainer to take this course, but you will get all of the scripts that we're working on this year and next year. Also in August, we have a trainer certification course. It's almost sold out. It's August 17th through 19th. So we've got a few places left if you want to register and get that done. Also, we have our last coach certification coming up until 2022. So I can't even believe that's the numbers, 2022. Wow.
No, that's not a thing. Nope.
Not a thing. Nope. This is
It is definitely not August.
Too fast. All right. Then we want to let you guys know about this coming up in September. We have a trainer certification that's going on, especially in those international time zones. It's going on later in the evening in the Eastern time zone, 6 to 10 p.m. So sign up for that for people in, where do we say, Australia, New Zealand. It's going to be good times for them.
And night owls.
Night owls.
Night owls. This is like my favorite time for a certification. This 7 and 8 o'clock Central Time stuff is too much. I am so excited about this course. 6 to 10 is like, ooh, us night owls here in the States, in Canada, bring it. I love this.
I agree. I am wide awake by this time. And last, we have our tickets on sale for the conference. Have we talked about the conference before? I think every day since February, we've talked about the conference. So don't miss out. We still have some early savings on the relationship guidebook or Seeing the Gems workbook. Tickets are on sale. Our conference is November 15th through 16th. I think all of us will be there on screen, like Lynn and Matthew and Rebecca and me. Yay!
Absolutely. Yes. And we talk about it a lot because it's going to be so awesome. And I know we've said it before, but I will say it again. One of the things that we got such positive feedback from last year was that part of our speaking team was people who were living with the diagnosis. And that is a real pack value of no care about me without me, right? And so that's why we're so excited to have Lynn here tonight. And hopefully we'll have folks every time we appear on SUP that really realize that was something that we weren't hitting the mark on with SUP. And so we're so glad you're here, Lynn, and took us our invitation. And for our conference, we already have, I think the number is 24 at this point, folks who are living with brain change, who are partnering with speakers on our team, who are going to be delivering content. And so, and Lynn is a part of that, as well as many other people. And that's one of the things that makes PAC unique. And so if you didn't come to last year's conference, come check it out. I think you'll find it valuable. Cool. So I am super excited. See what I did there? SUPER stuff. Okay. It's better in writing. I am super excited. Super excited to invite Mary Arthur on tonight. Mary and I met a couple of years ago. Welcome to SUP, Mary.
Welcome. Mary.
And I had the pleasure of mentoring Mary, and so I'm so excited to have her come on. A lot of times on SUP, we talk about things in the rearview mirror, right? We talk about things that wasn't that this really positive experience that you had in the past. And part of why I wanted to bring Mary on right now is because not only does Mary have some things to talk about in the past that are positive and have been some areas of growth, but she's kind of in the weeds a little bit with some situations right now. And why not talk about it here with our PAC family? What she's experiencing. She's got some residents who are teaching her some valuable lessons. And so we're going to talk about that. So welcome to SUP, Mary. Tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and your role in your organization, and just a little bit of that bio background, will you?
Yes, I'm having, like, I keep on muting myself. I don't know what's going on. I think I need a timeout before I begin. Anyway, so I'm Mary Arthur, and I consider myself a dementia care advocate. I'm a PAC trainer and consultant. I've been a PAC trainer for I think 6 years now. It's gone by really, really fast. I currently serve as the dementia care coordinator at Rappahannock Westminster Canterbury in Irvington, Virginia. But my journey really began when my grandmother was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's in her 60s. I was her care partner. She was opposite of who she always was. I had black eyes and bloody lips through this process. And so it was traumatic for me and my family. But really, I knew that my feelings and emotions were taking the best of me as I saw her decline. And I learned from Teepa later on that, you know, it's sometimes much harder for care partners that are related to someone than being someone in a facility like I am. And so I have that compassion towards the care partners and the spouses. And I think it's really important to kind of encourage and support them through their journey.
No doubt. Thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. So I'm curious, so you had that personal experience. You're now actually working in a residential care facility. And how did you get connected with TIPA and PAC?
So I saw a Teepa Snow video like a couple years after being a caregiver. And that's what I considered myself then. And I knew that that was what I was searching for. And there was a better way of caregiving for someone. I was working as a secretary in a nursing unit. And I had a retired Verizon employee with dementia trying to answer the phone, and a retired secretary trying to sort through my papers. So I started giving the secretary papers to sort through. When I was done, I created a small desk beside me for the Verizon employee. And my administrator at the time, Mary Estes, was from North Carolina and loved TIPA. And she was like, I really think that you need to further your dementia education. And it was like music to my ears because I was just like in awe of TIPA. And so the balls never stop rolling. I say like every year I need a TIPA fix. I need to go see TIPA. I need to watch a video. So when I get kind of down and I need some encouragement, I get my TIPA fix.
Yeah, I think we could all use a TIPA fix. I said a couple of weeks ago on the show that I miss being with her in person, even virtually. It's just different. So yeah, I can't wait till we can be live again. So I think you said you're a trainer and a consultant through Positive Approach to Care. And I'm curious, so when you did those courses, which one did you do first?
I did the trainer certification first. And then I kind of tried to perfect it a little bit, and I waited a few years and then became a consultant. And at the time we had some really challenging situations with like lawyers, ex-governors, and I was dealing with families that were very sometimes aggressive. And I needed that, like that extra oomph because I had that trainer down pretty well. And so consultant helped me in so many ways, not just in talking to families, but just in everyday conversations.
Yeah, that's so cool. So noticing how these certifications really gave you some new tools, some new things that you could use and best help the folks in different situations, especially these families. And we ask this a lot of folks who come on and have done certifications and have done many other different trainings and educational pieces before or been a part of them. So looking at the PAC trainings and certifications you went through and the other types of trainings and CE courses and whatever else you've been through, what differences were you noticing between the training style of a PAC training versus what you were seeing in other places and how they would conduct those trainings?
Definitely. There was a big difference that I saw. PEC broke every piece of dementia down, and then every piece of the puzzle along with that, and it was a practical and simple solutions to approach and everyday issues that no one else was breaking down to the nursing world. I was watching certified nursing assistants get injured. And a lot of times it was in the approach and in the way that they said things to certain people, and so it was like this whole new world that was very simple and like common sense that you don't think about. A lot of times I feel like in nursing, it's this emergency response to situations. And Tipa really taught me about taking deep breaths, and that third deep breath and exhale, you're now like calmer. And so I'll just stand beside nurses and those really challenging situations, because that one simple thing can just de-stress you, turn your amygdala down a little bit, and then you're responding in a softer, practical way.
So you're talking about those deep breaths, Mary, and I love that. It's really what we did here at the beginning of the show. Just kind of take a time out, and not only using your verbalizations to tell someone, oh, taking a couple of deep breaths can be helpful, but that literally standing beside someone, okay, let's do this together. And I know when you and I connected this year for your recertification, because another thing that's different about PAC, right, is that you have to recertify every year. We really believe in keeping our skills sharp and reevaluating that, looking in the mirror every year and seeing where our skills are. And when you and I connected this year, you shared that COVID's really hit your community really hard this year. And it's hard not to become emotional when you're talking about that. And so can you tell our viewers a bit about what your community's gone through over the past 18 months?
Yeah. So first of all, I got on my research call with Rebecca, and she's like, so how are things? And within seconds, I was bawling my eyes out. And it was so emotional. And I think that's part of having a certification through PAC, is having someone and an organization that supports you through those tough times. And I didn't even know I needed it until I talked to her. So before COVID ever got into our building, we had lost over 20 people to isolation. There was no real diagnosis that prompted most of these deaths. It was seeing, little old ladies and men completely devastated and lonely, and no connections being made because of masks, and the nurses being really busy, and them themselves in mask and full get-up gear, so looking like foreigners in their home, right? And so we saw this, just huge decline in cognitive function and eating. There was drastic declines in eating because we weren't eating in a dining room in a social setting where people are being cued across the table to take bites by visual, And so it was so tough for me, because I love my residents so much, to see so many decline. And I was racing through trying to make connections and put music on and prompt using hand under hand while sweating under all of this gear, and so it was a really tough journey. And I think that some of our nursing staff saw the benefit of taking a few minutes to connect, even under a mask. They saw the benefits of just connecting, and that the residents needed that. And we all talk about touch, and having gloves on all day isn't helping that skin hunger, isn't helping that person feel connected to another human being. So it was really challenging for us. And then we got COVID in the building, so we lost more people to that. So it's been a really tough journey.
So it's interesting, Mary, what you say, and then you got COVID in the building. So just to be clear, it's not that you lost 28 residents to infection from COVID. You use the words, we lost 28 residents, or how many ever, to isolation.
Yes. the isolation and loneliness and what you would call in the medical world, the thrive to survive, they're just declining. And there's, no thrive to survive. The eating is decline. Everything is diminishing really rapidly. In some cases, some dementias where, they were in the end stage, but they rapidly went through that and then they were deceased. So it was really horrible for us.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, unfortunately, that I think a lot of people out there can definitely relate to what you're saying, who have been working in different neighborhoods or communities, and a big piece of right now, especially what TIPA is trying to get out there, is talking about how, hey, so we've been through this once, and we learned some things. So let's take what we've learned and try not to make some of those same decisions, like the isolation piece. Do we really truly need to go back to doing that isolation piece, or is there some other things we can try different?
Yeah.
And so, speaking of trying things different, you already gave us some great examples of things you were doing to try to help your community, going on, putting in music, trying to engage with folks, and looking at the use of those PAC skills like PPA and hand under hand. What other differences were you noticing that when your staff or the folks around you were using PPA and hand under hand, what other differences were you noticing was happening for the residents there, for the staff in the building, compared to maybe what you've seen before in the past without the PPA or that hand under hand training?
Yeah, so I think that really all of the skills that I've learned from PAC have made the connection possible for me, our staff, our residents, just showing staff how residents can still feed themselves when their motor memory is prompted by using hand under hand. Giving the residents time to see them and approach them. It helps not startle the resident, and it creates bad connections, which leads to bad moments, and then that leads to bad days. And so I think like every skill has had benefits through not only, the pandemic, but just through these years of me creating kind of a dementia program for our nursing home and not really having a model. I think we modeled it off of PAC. And it was making those connections and implementing them one at a time and just showing staff. Because sometimes, like we learn through the trainer certification, it's all in the learning cycle for the staff to experience it themselves. And so, it's really important for them to see the benefits, but then empower them to try it themselves and show them, the process of getting the person started eating using hand under hand or brushing teeth. That's a very invasive thing to do to someone's face, so showing them the benefits of starting someone brushing teeth. And so you're not creating a bad morning, which leads to a bad day. You're starting it off by promoting independence and helping them feel accomplished by completing small tasks that we see as small, but they don't. So.
Absolutely. So that you're talking about kind of modeling this and culture change. And a lot of times we talk about this culture change being it's not overnight. You've been working on this for years. And so we have our teachers that come along, our residents, our clients, our friends who are living with dementia, that sometimes what we're trying isn't working all the time. So I'm wondering, from you, Mary, having kind of brought this culture change over time, we love to hear those success stories like that. Okay, this person wasn't eating and he or she was losing weight, and we used hand under hand to assist with eating, and yay, the weight loss stopped. We love those stories, and we'd love to hear those if you've got some of those. But right now you're learning from a couple of gentlemen, and I'm wondering if you want to share that with our group as well. So success stories and maybe some challenges.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I learned quickly that there's no such thing as an ex-Marine, because I said to one of them, I heard you're an ex-Marine. Oh no, honey. Once a Marine, always a Marine, get out. And so that's what I've been dealing with, is two Marines that had recent moves into a facility. And it's been challenging because while both of these gentlemen have a very sweet demeanor, when you approach one quickly or with more than one person, he becomes aggressive. The other Marine is
often. Hold on, I'm going to pause us. Shocking. You mean when you race in and you approach someone too fast and with multiple people coming out? Oh, surprise! He reacts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and I think I understood that. Excuse me, but it was really difficult to get long-term staff to see that. There's certain aides that are wonderful at what they do, and they're maybe in their late 50s and they've had a long road with this and dealt with a lot of people with brain changes. And so sometimes they're task oriented because they want to get the job done. And so it's really showing them, and it's kind of been over and over again. And the other Marine is often aggressive and combative no matter what. And so when looking at the 6 pieces of the puzzle with management, and the 6 pieces of the puzzle is one of my favorite things, I'll just have to say that, because it really breaks it down for nursing staff to kind of look at and say, okay, this is right here in my face. Let's look at all the issues that could be happening. And so one of our nurses that I've kind of shown her the 6 pieces of the puzzle for about 3 years. And so this time around with the more aggressive resident, I said, when we really look at this, I'm not sure if we've addressed all of the pieces of the puzzle. And so she looked it over and her first reply was, what about pain? And that's what I was thinking. I just needed her to get there. And so it was like immediately when they started giving him Tylenol, something very, soft, scheduled. We didn't see that aggressive behavior upon entering the room with just one person. It wasn't, over and over again yelling at us. And so years ago, when I became a trainer, Tipa said, when I said, how do you train people that have done this for 50 years? How do you train these new skills when they're not always open to them? Tipa said, well, you start with the fresh fruit first, and hopefully the tough nuts will follow. And she was correct once again. And so I've been training the fresh fruits for years, and they've been doing the approaches correctly, using hand under hand, and they have better interactions with their residents. And so when the new Marine came in and was responding with, 2 aides coming in, I just asked these aides if we could do a little in-service after that one day. And we kind of role played it again. I made some goggles that have the peripheral vision out of them. And so I put them on the lady and she laid in the bed and I kind of pulled on her and tugged on her while mumbling. So she couldn't really process what I was saying very well. And when she just immediately kind of set up and I was like, you're ready to fight, and she had tears in her eyes, took the goggles off and was like, I get it. I get it, what you're doing. I understand. And then we kind of went through that saying, but you knew that I was role playing and you knew that you know me, and so how do you think it would feel if you didn't know and you really felt like there was a threat to your well-being? So it's been challenging, but it's these aha moments.
Mary, I'm going to pause you there because that is like a mic drop moment, like mic drop. I'm seeing all my friends just nod their heads because that she might not have ever known what it was like until she experienced it. And that's what's so cool. And you weren't trying to do it in a training room with 20 people. You did this AELC and this experience, the share, this process, this connect, and this apply. And change happened because she saw it from the other side. Yeah. She saw it from the other side. And man, I got a kudos to you on that one. And this whole piece about bringing in the 6 pieces of the puzzle, because you were using words like resistive or combative. And we kind of cringe when we hear those things and go, oh, I mean, is he that, or is he self-protective? Is he that, or is, so you looked at the 6 pieces of the puzzle as a consultant with using those consulting skills and go, okay, is it the time? Is it environment? Is it the stakeholders? What is it about this experience? And what you found was this health changes piece. And whenever we talk about pain, I think people assume we're talking about the big guns, big time medicine. But what you said was just some routine Tylenol. And having recently had an injury and having experienced pain, it makes me kind of grumpy. So,
Yeah.
what great problem solving versus saying, oh, we need some kind of antipsychotic or whatever because he's combative and oh, he's dangerous. No, the man was having some pain.
And Rebecca, I just have to say that just a few years ago, I wouldn't have been able to use this, take this to that nursing supervisor and say, let's look at the 6 pieces before. And you taught me this a couple years ago. Before I would go in and say, hey, I think it's pain, right? I came in confrontational almost. I was in the stance. I was saying what was wrong. Instead of working with staff to get to that, themselves. And it took me a while to finally understand all of the steps and master walking through them, because it was like, my first year being recertified, I was skipping a step. I was, jumping to the solution. And then the next year I had the solution and I was trying to inch around it, but I ended up saying it. And then finally this year, I'm not saying the solution. I'm letting them go through the cycle, and then they're coming up with it. And that's how people learn, and that's how you teach them. But it took me a while to get there.
So, yeah, I'd love to hear about that growth, because I know there were times when you were like, but I know what to do. I know the fix. And it's just like, again, pull those reins back. So this has been a process for you as a leader. And I'm curious, how do your team members respond to you in this approach versus the old approach?
It's so different. And I thought like they were the problem. And so now I know that a lot of times I was the problem because, I wanted to help and I wanted to fix problems in our facility, but it was all in my approach of how I was approaching these situations, coming up with a solution. So it's such a better, environment now, because I'm just coaching them through figuring it out. But that's the biggest education piece, is just helping them through that, and calming my own self down. So there's a lot of times I'm taking deep breaths behind the mask at work, and waiting for them to kind of come up with it. And I think it's just, I'm proud of myself, and I wouldn't have said that 3 years ago, And so not only has it helped me grow in teaching and educating, but it's also just helped me grow as an individual. So I'm just so appreciative of PAC.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And looking again, just and so for a lot of folks out there, especially you folks out there who haven't seen things with PAC, maybe this is the first time you've seen anything about PAC, because we recognize there's a lot of folks out there who haven't seen PAC before and are watching these things for the first time. So looking at some of those pieces of the difference between if I was to tell you guys what it was you were supposed to do, when this is stuff that you've done for a long time, and I might not have done it as long as you guys, or you recognize, and the dogs want to tell us about it too. But then that other piece of having them recognize on their own, but doing so in a way that's more of a, let's check this out. Let's experience this. And then, what happened there? Why do you think that happened? Have you seen this before? And finally that, what might you try different next time in this situation when you run into this or this happens? And how that is so much different than that piece of, I'm telling you, this is what to do, especially when it comes to those tough nuts. I know we use that tough nut term, but, and it's not that they're trying to be tough. It's just that piece of, man, I've been doing this for a long time, and you're coming in here and you're trying to tell me something different. So, but yeah, that, how powerful that is. And so what a great piece of advice for all of us out there. But I'm curious, Mary, what other advice would you have, especially for folks out there who they were in the same situation you were before PAC training, looking at what can we do different? Where can we take things and help to start increasing our tools in our tool belt and really starting to make more of this culture change or this culture shift? What advice would you have for folks out there in that beginning stage of, man, where do I go? What do I do?
So I always tell people, just do it. Just go get a PAC certification. And so I always tell people, just start out by watching videos, like educating yourself, looking at different education pieces. But when you see PAC, it's that heartfelt touch that you see, and it's that breaking it down in simple terms and really connecting with the person. And so, I started by just doing the trainer and trying to perfect that. And like I said, going back for consultant. And I think that combining the two made a huge difference in how, like I said, communicating with everyone. And so if you're questioning things, watch some of Tipa's videos, try a couple of them on your own. And then kind of research some more into those PAC certifications, because there's a lot of virtual options now that I didn't have, but I was excited to see Tipa in person so much. I would have gone to the ends of the earth. And so I know a lot of people feel like that, and so, just grasp all you can. It took me a long time to understand simple things like the amygdala and the learning cycle, but you'll get there. And it was like stretching my brain and looking at things from a different point. And like we've been talking about, just like I was really distraught that the aides and nurses were approaching people a little bit, aggressively and demanding things, I was doing the same to them by trying to push the training on them and trying to push the solution. And so it's like taking a step back, stopping yourself, giving yourself a timeout, and just seeing what you could do a little bit different. And I always say, by being a detective, watch how your people are responding to certain things, and use some of those skills about approach that Tipa teaches and different YouTube videos, and try it for yourself, because you'll just see that there's a huge benefit.
Mary, I had to literally give it this like blow in my mind, because we often talk about these layers of the onion, and you learn the first thing and then you learn the next, and you go deeper and deeper with your knowledge base. I think I'm getting that analogy right. But you have this aha that I want to go back and hear it again, that wow, I was doing as a leader to my staff what I was frustrated with them about doing to our residents. Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
And I kind of sit there one day when I hit with that thought, and I was just quiet for a really long time. And I think it was another situation that humbled me, and just made me realize that there's always, a few sides to a story and a few sides to a scenario. So really, dissecting yourself while you're dissecting other people's approach, you're also always evaluating
yourself.
Yes.
Absolutely. Looking in the mirror. One of the things that, Lynn has really talked about in some of our certification courses is that whole vision piece. And I know Lynn has a follow-up question to you, if we can kind of go back to the Marine story. Lynn, what was your question for Mary about that?
You were mentioning about if one person came in, or maybe more than one person came in, and that might disturb one of your residents even more. I know that feeling because it's hard to track one person, let alone more than one, because that field of vision is getting more narrow and more narrow and more narrow. And I didn't realize what that would be like. Somehow, listening to the description, I really thought that the stuff out here would just go black, and all I would have would just be this, like looking through a paper towel roll or a couple of paper towel rolls, which isn't accurate at all. If I shut down my ears and I shut down my voice and I focus hard, I really can see the rest of this stuff, but then I can't listen and I can't talk because every little bit of energy that's left is making my eyes look out around here. So that vision is still there, but then I can't concentrate on anything else. And then I literally couldn't pay attention to a couple of you coming into the room. So if I want to pay attention to a couple people coming in the room, then I'm going back to all this fading away and just looking out of whether I'm in a scuba mask or whether I'm down to binocular vision, wherever I am in my progression. And that is even more frightening because I can't, if you've got one person kind of back here and another person up here, can't get you into focus. If you're trying to talk to me, then I really can't keep up. If you're wanting me to respond or if you're reaching at me, all that stuff is that much more confusing, which is going to make me aggressive.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if any of that was going on, where your folks were as far as gem state, what was going on with their progression in their disease.
So the gentleman that they were working with he's in the later stages. And so I would think from what Teepa's taught is he would be in binocular vision. And so that's why I wanted them to have those goggles with kind of blacked out, but then taking it a step further and touching and actually trying to push someone over, because that was what happened before we kind of stepped in and went through it together.
Yeah.
And so just like you're describing, only being able to kind of focus in, but not then listening, and then all of a sudden you have hands touching you and kind of pushing you over. I can't even imagine. I mean, I would be kicking and screaming and fighting too.
Yeah, you can't spend two people. You can't do that because that's just two things coming at you and you just cannot track it.
Exactly. So I can only imagine how frightening that would be. And I feel like the nursing assistant that had tears in her eyes felt that fear in that moment. And thank you so much for sharing that, because it's so insightful to know, that, more in the beginning, yeah, you have scuba and you can kind of see, but you can't really concentrate on listening when you're really concentrating on scanning and seeing that approach and who's approaching.
Right. And if somebody's trying to say tea or something else, and all I'm trying to know is this thing's coming at me and I'm trying to hear and then I'm supposed to be speaking and way too much going on.
Yeah. I always tell our staff, like, let's slow it down.
Good advice. Good advice.
I slow my voice down because, a lot of times our world is very fast. Everything's really fast paced. And so sometimes it's hard to slow down and take yourself down a notch. But I think that's an important piece of it too.
And what's slow to you and what's slow to me evidently is very different.
Yes, it is. It definitely is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What a great point there, Lynn, is sometimes we think we're really slowing it down. and my slow might still be not slow. What a great point there. Mary, anything you feel like, oh, go ahead, Matthew.
I was just going to say, yeah. And just that piece of the recognition too, of the environment and all of the stimulation. I think Lynn's bringing up such a huge point that so many of us, a lot of times we really take for granted our ability to focus out everything or focus on what we're doing and take out of the equation everything else around us so we can focus on something, and how hard that is, how much really goes into that.
See these? That's why these are on my head. Because cars go by my house and my cats are outside the door and we don't have kids here. It's just the normal TV in the back. But if I want to concentrate on you guys, I still need this. I've got a fan down here, but I still need this.
Yeah. And being able to recognize what we can do in those moments. So for all of us, it's again, going back to that pause, thinking about, okay, I'm about to ask this person to do something really intimate or to do something that has a lot of steps. And we're in the day room with the TV on. There's a radio over here playing. There's someone next to them asking them to take their medication or asking them if they want something. And then here I come. and is this really the best time, best place to
Right.
do that? And so being aware of those pieces. And so a lot of great, again, a lot of great tips, a lot of great things for us to be aware of. And so I'm curious, Mary, is there something else that you feel like we haven't talked about tonight with all of these awesome experiences, all this awesome stuff you've shared, something you feel like we didn't get a chance to cover with all of the great stuff you're doing where you're at?
Yeah, well, I think that y'all just made some really good points. And I talk about this a lot because our nursing home still has all the buzzes and whistles, as I call them. So there's a door alarm system and the phone and the call bell system. And so there's all different types of buzzes and dinging. And I'm noise sensitive. And so I talk about that. And, something else I will bring up is, someone being an extrovert versus an introvert, noise sensitive versus noise tolerant. There's so many factors that make us who we are. And I think that TIPA breaks that down to say they're still there, they're still inside, they're still who they've always been. They just have brain changes. And we just have to go where they are and put ourselves in their shoes and think about, what am I tasting? What am I seeing and hearing and feeling? And when we can kind of put ourselves in their shoes is when, we can really kind of connect with the person. And so they're still in there, and, everybody out there, keep doing a good job. Thank you, PAC team. Y'all are like the biggest support system for me. So thanks, guys, so much. I feel like I've learned something. So.
That's such a great segue because a lot of times on SUP we'll end with we've got two favorite endings, and one is an encouragement card and one that we have from these in the moment cards that PAC sells. I don't think I got the name right. The in the moment, help me out, Matthew. Yeah, so they're giving me some
in the
nods.
moment support cards that we have, which are my blur. Oh, there we go.
Oh, your blurs messing
My blur
it
in
up.
the background. See, I'm trying to be aware of my background and being overstimulating, and unfortunately, it doesn't help when showing stuff. So yeah, the in the moment support cards. What a great tool for anybody in any situation. We've heard stories of people having these just on their desk at work. And when they're in that moment of, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. There's so much happening. And I need something. They're able to pull that card, and what a difference it's made. And there's been times where we've actually taken one of these cards out and somebody's commented in our YouTube comment thread that, wow, I really needed that today. That what you just said was perfect. So it really does help us in the moment when we need it.
So give us that today. What kind of in the moment can you give us? And then I'm going to ask our viewers. I would love to hear, because Mary came on the show thinking I'm going to be the guest and I have this story to tell. And now she's going, wait, I actually am taking something away from this. And I hope that's always the experience, but I'm curious, and I have a big ask for folks that are watching on YouTube. If you have a takeaway from what Lynn shared, from what Mary shared, we would love to hear those takeaways, because that's why we're here. That's why we're here, is because of the takeaways. So share those in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. And Matthew, give us some in the moment encouragement or growth, or
well, yeah, and
you
so
feel like we should have.
So going back to Mary talking about, man, I really feel like I've learned something tonight, and I think for all of us, we've really had some aha moments, and so that's reminds me so much of growing, right, and growth. And so I pulled a grow card, and so the card that I pulled says, this journey can seem long. So the journey can seem long. Give yourself permission to take rest breaks along the way. how hard is it for you to give yourself that time out? Especially when there's a lot going on, especially when there is so much happening in the moment that's all you see. And the last thing you see is yourself. So giving yourself that permission to stop and take a rest break, and what that can do for yourself. So for me, I recognize that when I'm spread out too thin over a surface, it's hard for me to be the best I can be, and that I need to take that rest break so I can hopefully return back to being the best I can. So I'm curious, Mary, what does that say to you, that card that I just pulled up about giving yourself permission? What comes to mind for you on that one?
Well, I'm taking my first vacation in a couple weeks because yes. And so I think this is really important. And I told Rebecca on our call, I didn't even know how stressed out I was through the pandemic. And I got to the point where I was like losing hair. And I think that if you don't take care of yourself and, take care of yourself mentally and physically, your body will tell you when it's time to rest. And so, like you said, you can't wait until you're not doing a good job you're not giving of yourself the way that you should. And I think that a lot of times at work, when I feel like I'm not as patient, or the deep breaths aren't helping me as much as they used to, I think I've done a better job at identifying when I need to take that rest, get outside, or do whatever I love to do. And that's what I always tell care partners. You have to love yourself first and be able to love someone else the way that you do. So I think it's just a really good reminder. I think it was like the perfect card.
Lynn, you're unmuted. I'm wondering if you had anything to add on to that idea of that encouragement card that Matthew shared with us.
I was very impressed with Mary and her team, where she really made the glasses, had her coworker get in the bed, really just lay there, go through the real life experience. And even though she knew that it was a setup, still when her person sat up in the bed and had the tears and lived through that experience, so almost affirming of, oh my gosh, this is real life for this person that I'm caring for. So important. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What you got for us, Carrie?
I keep thinking about the reaction that's so hard to, it's the first skill, almost the first pack skill that you have to get to, is that awareness. Like, I have to take a time out. Even at the beginning, like, we've been doing this show for a year and I still have to take a time out. And it's so hard because at the moment that you're scubaing, it's almost like that scuba is out here and you're looking in, you're like, I'm not a part of this. I have to control what's going on here. And I'm not even thinking about, what's going on in here too. And and pulling all that together to stay, okay, I have to stop. I have to make sure I'm good. Then we can go ahead and I can be with you to help, give some feedback to you. And Lynn, your definition of the scuba is so helpful in dealing with how other people see that piece of information. Because definitely every time I bring it up, people think, then it's just going to be black around here. And having that realization, like, no, it's just that I'm focused. Or I can only pay attention to so much information. That was an amazing, amazing point. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you. That was super helpful. And I've heard you talk about that before, Lynn. And our viewers hadn't. And so thank you for sharing that with us tonight. And Mary, I want to thank you for your vulnerability and your willingness to come up and talk about. I mean, I didn't plan on saying, when we connected, you had this, this moment of release. Didn't necessarily plan to share that. But I think it's a valuable piece and really relates to Matthew's, the card that he happened to pull. I mean, how perfect that. I think so many people in our certified community, and I mean, I'm going to be real here, our PAC team have been treading water, and the waves have been coming, and I've got to just do what I've got to do. And I appreciate that you trusted me enough that when we had that call this year, that you were able to share. And that's what we call this a community for a reason, guys. It's not lip service. We call this a community. We want to be here to support folks. We want to be able to be a safe place. I mean, you're probably, Mary, not going to go to your team and have that moment, but I was someone that you could have that moment with. And so I just want our certified community, everyone out there to know, this is truly, we care. And so if we can help each other process, that's a good thing to do. That stuffing it down in a hole and pushing it under the rug and stuff doesn't usually work so well. And so thank you, Mary, for your vulnerability. Thank you for, man, the amazing work you're doing. Thank you for helping us learn alongside of you with your Marines. We'll have to get a follow-up down the road, but it sounds like you guys are already having some great successes. So thank you for coming on. Thank you, Lynn, for being here. Thanks to my awesome hosts. And I want to say celebrate, because you guys, this is our 1-year anniversary of Straight Up Positive. We actually had our first show a year ago. So what a fun and special night to celebrate that. We'll see you not next week, but in 2 weeks here on YouTube for another Straight Up Positive. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Stay positive.